Hello, I am Jason Drillard with EDL 854, Module 1. A little bit about me. I am a husband and a father. I graduated from Bethany College where I played 2 years of football, and I also spent a season on the track team throwing javelin. Fun fact, I have also attended 5 colleges, so it took me a bit of time to get my degrees and go through the process of getting my master's. For my professional career, I'm going into my 4th year of teaching, in which I am an ELA teacher. I also have my ESOL endorsement. I started at Great Bend Middle School, where I coached football and basketball, and I am currently at Smoky Valley Middle School, again, the 7th grade ELA teacher. I also coach as the head girls basketball coach, and this year I will be the head football coach. And my long-term goals as an educator is to be a principal, so I am trying to get my master's in administration. So some notable quotes from the articles that we were given. First one, the funds will either be allocated by the district central office for every school or directly to individual schools so principals can determine how to use that money to meet their school's unique needs. I thought this was interesting just because it's not the principal that decides how the funds are going to be distributed, but it is the principal's role to decide how to use that money. Number 2, the school principal is typically given a small pool of funds for supplies and other consumable materials to make decisions on throughout the year. So again, it's actually taking quite a bit of the responsibility out of the principal's hands to decide what to do with all the money, and instead actually making it quite simple in a smaller amount of money and what to do with that money. Number 3, it is the principal's responsibility to prepare the school budget, a record of projected revenue and expenditure. So the big thing is making sure that you record what you're spending the money on and keeping up to date with that. Number 4, schools should be well conversant with the terms and conditions, and a file should be kept on each teacher in which any salary changes and job performance details are recorded. Again, the big thing is if you're going to anything you do with the budget, make sure that you are recording it and keep a file on that. Number 5, a principal's failure to comply with guidelines provided by the Department of Education is a serious offense and can lead to closure of a school. I thought this one was extremely eye-opening because a simple mistake could go very far. I also read in there that the school using the wrong budget cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt for years to come. So just making sure that you're doing your due diligence when it comes to the budget and making sure to comply with the guidelines that were set forth is a big one to remember. Number 6, the principal is often responsible for his school's fundraising activities. I thought this was extremely fascinating because it just seems as though the principal has so many other different roles within the building, and I just never knew that it was the principals that are often responsible for that. Number 7, regularly approving and revising school budgets. So this one actually makes a lot of sense to me. And just the fact of revising, seeing where we can make cuts, but also approving any of the budgets. Number 8, understanding that the school income must be handled in accordance with relevant requirements, regulations, and rules, ensuring that other financial management bodies follow those guidelines. So again, just making sure that you're following what's set forth for guidelines and those requirements. As long as you follow those, be just fine. Number 9, principals typically are treated like middle managers with little control over the $694 billion in annual U.S. public education spending. Again, it's the principals actually have very little to do with the actual budgeting. They're just kind of told, here's your budget, do your best. And number 10, instead of giving principals actual dollars to spend, most districts allocate staffing positions and other resources based on one-size-fits-all models. So it's kind of from district to district, it's a little bit different when we talk about what position the principal is put in terms of how much money they're given. So each case is different, but it just that one-size-fits-all models might work well for some, and the others it definitely might handcuff them in what they're able to do. So what I've seen so far from my principal, I've seen him create a new schedule and discuss budgeting. One of the big differences that we were trying to make in the school was a new schedule, and so our principal spent a large portion of his time this past year creating a new schedule. He's also discussed budgeting in the sense of being able to add another teacher, in which case we didn't have the funds for that at the time. One thing I have not seen my principal do is fundraise. I know there are different fundraisers going through the school for athletics, but as far as the principal trying to fundraise, I haven't seen that. And I think that's just because it's not necessary at the time. It's not to say that he won't do it or that he doesn't believe that he should do it, but at the time we aren't needing any extra funds, but that could change relatively soon. What concerns do you have about being in charge of your school's budget as a future school leader? I definitely think limitations. I know it tends to be the smaller the school district, the more limitations you have on the amount of money you have, and so budgeting becomes very tight. Also, areas of focus. To me, I think one thing that I can see myself struggling with is believing that this area should get more money rather than this one, and because I don't make all of those decisions, I think I'll have some challenges when it comes to deciding what area should get more money. And then budget cuts. I think that's obviously the biggest concern, because budget cuts are unpleasant. Ultimately, it ends up hurting the teachers, whether it's it's a complete loss of their job or having a salary reduced. There's just a lot of bad things when it comes to budget cuts, although they are necessary in certain instances, but it's just an unpleasant, something that's unpleasant that has to happen at times. So that's one thing I'm not looking forward to. Hopefully I don't have to ever do that, but I would definitely stress every possible way to avoid those budget cuts without hurting the district or students. So thank you for taking the time to listen. Hope you enjoyed.